If Andy Bales can't frickin' walk down the street and preach the gospel, we had to do something. So I'm proud of the fact that I helped motivate the city to wake up to the disaster.
What is the disaster and who is Andy Bales? Well, the disaster is the giant and growing problem of homelessness in LA County. Andy Bales is a true crusader, the true crusader to help end homelessness. He's been doing it for over 36 years, and for the last 16 plus as CEO of Union Rescue Mission based in Skid Row in Los Angeles. I was really fortunate in that Andy sat down, shared his thoughts and ideas with me, and now I'm sharing with you in 2 parts. You got to check them out. If you care about homelessness, you want to listen to Andy. Here's part 1.
So tell me your deeper purpose for going over the edge today, Andy.
We are haunted by homelessness. We don't want even one precious human being being on the streets, so we'll do anything. We'll go above and beyond in order to address homelessness in Los Angeles. And we jumped and rappelled a 24-story building. I've ridden my bike 3 times from Skid Row to Sacramento. I've spent the night on Skid Row several times. We will do anything possible to address homelessness.
You are the CEO of the Union Rescue Mission?
Yes.
And how long have you been doing that?
I've been here at Union Rescue Mission for almost 18 years, and I've been doing this kind of work for 36 years.
So between now and when you started 36 years ago, how have things changed?
So when I started 36 years ago in Des Moines, Iowa, I went to a mission that had been founded by a guy who spent 37 years on the streets. He had a 4th grade education, and I learned everything I know about running a mission from George Holloway. George wanted a mission where it was clean and bright, where you feed the people well and they can go out and work and come back and pay part of their own way and affirm their dignity and learn responsibility. And he wanted a sober environment because he felt like it was impossible to get sober in a non-sober environment. And it was all white men, alcoholics, who were homeless 36 years ago. It wasn't until crack cocaine was introduced that the first black man came to our doors. And since then, drugs like heroin and meth have brought every ethnic group into homelessness. It's shocking to see cultures that normally did not experience homelessness begin to experience homelessness because of the power of meth. Meth impacts people mentally as well, and if that weren't enough, we have cartels now that hired a genius in Mexico to develop fentanyl, synthetic heroin, that when mixed with meth makes meth much more addictive because it makes it physically addictive. So they weren't earning enough money with just meth alone, so they added fentanyl to make it much more addictive. And now we have high overdose rates on the streets and much more mental health issues because of the introduction of meth and fentanyl.
You started in Des Moines, and you obviously the type of people you've seen changed a lot, is what you've said, and the issues have changed as well.
Yeah.
What brought you to Los Angeles?
So started at Door of Faith Mission in Des Moines. Within 4 years, a group of churches came to me and said, Andy, we'd like to do something for moms and kids. And so we started something called Good Samaritan Urban Ministries in Des Moines, where we did transitional housing for about 5 families and 18 kids. And that grew into a coalition of churches that did transitional housing for over 20 families, which then secured a whole city block and created permanent housing for 48 families. If you can believe it, we bought a 48-unit building for half a city block for $500,000 in Des Moines, Iowa. Renovated it for $500,000.
Where did the funding come from?
It was all raised by churches.
Okay.
And it was after the federal home loan disaster, which made these properties abandoned and easy to afford. But we renovated 44 two-bedroom apartments, 4 four-bedroom apartments, and then we took on another project, 36 apartments nearby, and this was in the toughest neighborhood in Des Moines, Iowa. Well, then a developer came to us. His name was Bill Knapp. Bill Knapp wanted to build houses in the inner city, so he built like 23 three-bedroom homes, 2-bath, and turned it over to us to manage. We were serving 156 families, over 300 kids in our housing, in an after-school program, summer camp. And after 10 years, I kind of grew comfortable, and I'm never comfortable when I'm comfortable. A city councilman and a neighbor and a city planning guy came to the church and threatened the church about my work. I was sitting in the front yard contemplating my future, and I guess the church meant well. They were just trying to corral my passion for poor people. Then the chairman of the board of Union Rescue Mission pulled up in my front yard and offered me to be the president and CEO of the largest rescue mission in the country at double the pay I'd ever made in my life. And I looked at the bushes and just said, God, you're too good to me. I totally
What year was this?
This was 2004 going into 2005. While I've been here, I've been able to impact stopping or at least slowing down hospital drop-offs. Was able to move our moms and kids to the safety of Hope Gardens, 77-acre retreat in the mountains. Recently, we opened up a new satellite for 86 families in South LA, so that families in South LA don't have to come to Skid Row for help. They can stay right in their own neighborhood and get help where they are. And we've got our eyes on another project coming up farther away. I lost my leg, it started about 8 years ago. There were 9 toilets for 2,800 people, which is 184 toilets shy of a minimum standard for a Syrian refugee camp. And I was wearing a wound boot, and I stepped into some human waste, which was prevalent all over Skid Row. And I got E. coli, strep, and staph flesh-eating disease in my foot, and eventually lost my right leg. And then getting around for about 7 years with one leg caused me to wear out my left leg, so I lost my left leg. And I did finally tell the story about that, and I knew when I told the story I would cause a couple problems. I would both cause my board of directors to start talking about a succession plan when I told the truth about coming back from out of town and having gaping wounds on my foot and having 104 temperature and blood poisoning and going in the hospital for a few days. But I also knew that perhaps it would wake our city up. And so at the very same time, our board talked about a succession plan, but the city declared a state of shelter emergency.
What year is this? What time?
That would have been 2015. One of the city councilmen called me, my buddy Gil Cedillo, and he said, Andy, we had to do something. So we declared a state of shelter emergency. He said, if Andy Bales can't frickin' walk down the street and preach the gospel, we had to do something. So I'm proud of the fact that I helped motivate the city to wake up to the disaster. We believe in life transformation here. We believe in recovery. We don't take any government funds. We take only private funds because we believe in recovery, and the government funds require the harm reduction policy where alcohol and drugs have to freely flow. If you take government funds, you have to allow alcohol and drugs to freely flow. We don't believe in that, and we also want to keep our faith. So we raise all our funds privately. We raised $40 million private dollars to build Angel's House in South LA, and we operate with about 70 $7,000 per day to operate all three of our facilities. We also have thrift stores to raise money. And we have about 130, 140 kids at each site. So here downtown, at Hope Gardens, and at Angela's house. So we work with about 400 kids and their families.
Obviously, you've seen a lot, you've done a lot, and yet the problem
Gets worse.
gets worse. And I know you're driven because you want to help anyone you can help.
Yeah.
But when you look at the problem more broadly, do you have hope?
I do have hope, but it's mostly in the fact that you can help one person, one family at a time. And this model could be scaled up, right? But our city and county and federal government are lost right now. They've given up on recovery. It works, but they've given up on it. It's too hard of work. So they've just given into letting the cartels reign, the local drug gangs freely do what they want to do. They provide buildings, but they allow anything and everything to go on in those buildings. And that has not helped. It's actually in California. California is the only state that's doubled down on housing first, harm reduction only, right? Meanwhile, homelessness in general has gone up 31%. Street homelessness has gone up much more than that in California. Most of the people who live on the streets struggling with homelessness live in California and the western states because of this failed policy. So we just need the government to wake up and turn around and focus once again. Our school system's failing, our family system's breaking down, law enforcement's breaking down. The whole society is coming unglued, in my opinion.
Looking at it broadly, though, you're going to follow your mission here.
Absolutely. We're never going to give up on recovery. We're never going to take government. There was a time when there was so much money available that people were pondering, hey, let's go after some of that money. But with that money came strings. You have to give up your faith, and you'll have to move away from recovery. And so I'll have to admit, I went out and secretly asked the donors, could you give big enough gift that would direct us back to depending on private donors? So he wrote out, I will give $30 million to Union Rescue Mission if you keep your mission. You keep faithful
And that
to
happened.
your mission. He did.
You've been doing this for 3+ decades. I've been involved in this for a year. When I see, and I understand your commitment to your approach, but I see a disconnection, a lack of coordination between organizations of faith and the government, law enforcement. If somehow those could be connected, coordinated, that it would be a force multiplier.
Yeah, I've tried. I now serve on the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority Commission and trying to bridge the gap a bit, try to be an influence for recovery. I spoke to the Blue Ribbon Commission for the county, which was trying to do that very thing, right? And the biggest emphasis we had was there needs to be a person with a lot of authority, like a czar of homelessness. And that's what the guys from New York told us. Mm-hmm. So just to give you an idea.
Makes sense to
me. New
me.
York has over 100,000 people who are homeless, right?
Yeah.
They have 3,400 on the streets. You know why?
Why?
Because they take a whole different approach than we do.
Yeah.
They told us, you need a knock down the doors type of leader who will not let anything stop them from getting this job done. They told us this in 2017.
And that's not happening.
That is not happening, even though the Blue Ribbon Commission calls for that, the creation of an executive department in LA to be like a czar of homelessness.
So you need a mayor here.
We need a strong head of homelessness. It needs to be LA County and LA City working together that has a department head that only answers to the top officials of getting homelessness solved.
And that doesn't exist
And
today.
that doesn't exist.
What stops that from happening?
We are too democracy prone, too committee prone in LA, and New York told us that. You guys are too much committee. You need a forceful leader who will just take charge and not let anything stop them from getting it done.
Okay, so when you say we're too democracy prone, you mean that because there's so many voices.
So many voices that we never take the first step.
I see.